Hello, you heart-centered soul, and welcome back to my channel, and thank you for tuning in. Today is a special one because we're about to dissect the latest Love Island 2022 audition video. Funnily enough, I actually nearly made the Love Island 2018 edition for the Cape Town show. There's a video on my YouTube channel to explain the whole interview process, which will give you a couple of laughs and the reality behind a show like this. So if you want to learn more about conscious relationships, developing a healthy relationship, stay tuned, this video is for you. And again, subscribe and like and comment as we go. Let's jump right in. It's a 3-minute video. I want to, hop in, just have a laugh, see what they're up to, and describe some of the psychological templates behind what they're doing and the games that they are actually playing. Potentially they're unaware and unconscious of, and we can bring the unconscious back to the conscious realm where we have more awareness of it. So this will be a very big learning curve for you. So without further ado, let's lock and load into the Love Island 2022. So let's hop in together and have a little laugh. Let's go. Sexual content, strong language, yeah.
I'm Luca.
I'm Amber.
I'm McKenna.
I'm Paige.
I'm Danny.
I'm Tasha.
My name's Andrew.
I'm India.
My name is Davide.
I'm Gemma.
I'm Liam.
Oh, there we go. There's the topless picture. See, this is what we came for. The little rife, it gets us excited. I think they did this with the Thor movie, the latest trailer with Chris Hemsworth, where they had to throw in a lad's washboard abs, didn't they? With Thor, he came out with these like massive muscles right at the end of the trailer, and I think this is just to like instigate that primal wildness to us, isn't it? It's watchable. It's like, oh my god, I'm getting my dopamine going, and it's the very reason why we are attracted and gain chemistry through how people look. It really is a central digest, as it were. We're sensually stimulated when we see someone attractive, especially physically, and that is just chemically bam him up in our brain to be like, wow, let's watch on. So let's go on. I love all the names, by the way, good names.
To get in the villa and have a summer of my life.
Summer of my life. I don't think that's Wales. That's not Bristol. I thought that was.
I am a bit of a wild child.
My friends describe me as like the life of the party.
You'll definitely find me on the dance floor on a night out.
So very outgoing. I noticed when I was interviewing, I was probably a little bit too introvert for the show, but it's always an outgoing, extroverted, and probably externalizing personality type that they look for in this show. People who thrive in stimulation, people who thrive in externalizing their thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And that can be dangerous because we've seen in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case that Amber Heard was a primal externalizer, somebody who was criticizing, blaming, and trying to control the outer world, or because of her inner self was not really taking responsibility or ownership of her wrongdoing. The consequences were probably being spitted out to other people to take on for her own issues, whereas Johnny Depp was a famous internalizer who used avoidance, stonewalling, kind of drugs, alcohol to kind of numb away his pain rather than blurt it out and externalize it. So one is more respectful while self-deprecating because it's worse on you, while the other is externalizing the venom, which is very disrespectful and probably not the best way to go either. So I hope that this show is not full of those criticizing blamers, but we're going to rock and roll. There is an innocent side of it, but we'll see.
If there's a girl I like, you'll see me going from a break dancer to an Irish dancer in the club to get her attention.
Break dancing and Irish dancing, like the BBC animal shows, like the birds who dance to impress. So just like this, I see that is just primal nature. It's a way of human beings seducing women with their bodies. It's a tactic, isn't it? It's like showing off skills, competence. It's like, men look good. Well, is that everything for you? Is that the deep dark depths of emotional well-being, connection, vulnerability? Probably not. It's just a way of impressing you to lure you in. Again, performance, and a very big part of where we, from a fear-based perspective as men, play performances, personas from our ego. So we're not really our true higher self, we're literally faking something to lure you in. Now there is genuine talents and gifts, and I'm not saying wholeheartedly play, and I'm not saying wholeheartedly perform, because there is a big difference. But if the performing is based on fear, or based on scarcity, or need to compete or attract, we're in a difficult situation. So let's rock and roll.
Do love going on a little date and getting to know people, but it never gets past the first date for me.
I have such high standards. In a man, I'm looking for someone that's just like Hercules, basically.
High standards, no problem at all. I agree that we having expectations upon one another, there's a great fact from the Gottman Institute to say that those who actually expect something from marriages actually have a thriving marriage. It was in the 7 Principles for Having a Happy Marriage by David Gottman, and it was a brilliant book. It was saying that actually if we don't have expectations upon our relationship, it's that they can be average and tend to digress over time. So having standards and having expectations upon your partner is not a gap for happiness, and it's not to be too much or too high maintenance, which are gaslighting labels, by the way, but it's to say that, well, we expect something from life. Viktor Frankl also said if we don't expect something from life, we dissolve meaning people really do take their own lives when they don't see life as having anything in the future for them. So expect something from your relationship. The only issue is she mentioned Hercules. Now again, a physical attribute. This is not giving men much of an opportunity to show up in a wholehearted way like we spoke about, and in a wholesome way, a deeper way. They need to look a certain way to impress, and this is only instigating the game further and not healthy behavior at all. Women in their wounded feminine will create this gameplay. They tend to be notorious throughout nature to create insecurity in men that are non-committal, and also insecurity in men who have potential power dynamics. So when they look great, it's a way of lording power over the woman, and so if the woman makes that looking great they vehiclize it or weaponize it against the man to say, well, if you don't meet my physical standards, then you're not for me. Then essentially they're actually turning against a male's area of competence against him. He's like, oh my god, I've got to reach her standards to feel worthy. So it can be very toxic because men are having unhealthy expectations upon a physical asset rather than a wholehearted asset, which is emotional commitment, showing up, being available. And what's worth noting here is Hercules is a Greek god. Now, something that's incredibly out of reach, isn't it? It's really making men feel like they are up against something that's impossible. Now this is just going to perpetuate into insecurity and never feeling enough. This is never going to create a healthy foundation for a relationship where you feel okay or accepted for your flaws. And this is not the space or arena to nurture a place of vulnerability, and vulnerability is the window to connection. So if a man needs to be perfect or needs to show up in a physically immaculate way like Hercules and be godlike, then you're only gonna, in one shape or form, he's gonna get more avoidant and gonna, realize that you are just having unrealistic expectations upon him, and he's just gonna wither away and never really give you what you need, or he's gonna just wither away, become resentful, defensive, contentful against you. And these are the 3 of the 4 horsemen, which Gottman says in institutional relationships, is that the 4 horsemen here are reason that problems start to show up in relationships. Now let's rock and roll, let's carry on the video.
My biggest ick is a guy that wears socks with trainers. Ballerina socks will do.
Ick, socks and trainers, that's in. A good pair of Nike socks and a good flip-flops. Come on, man, that's style.
Bit of a female player, but nobody knows until now.
Oh, okay, mysterious there. That's a mysteriousness playing against seductive. It's like, you don't know the truth and we're going to manipulate you with lies. You really won't know the truth. And she's going to use that probably in the show as a seductive character. And what's interesting here, if she plays the mysterious card, we never know who she is, meaning she can live in the realm of no consequences. It's kind of like where spirituality is used as well. It's a platform, becoming anything and everything you want. There's no definition or labels or you can't figure them out, and that can be a dangerous place because for our mind that lives in a comprehensive and complex world, we do need labels to make sense of it. And if someone like this is coming in and she's super hard to guess, super hard to put into words, then the man is just really in a place of uncertainty, insecurity, and that's never a good thing. And of course, this is great for dramatic relationships. Love living in that space of lack of clarity, lack of commitment, lack of knowing what the heck is going on, and so no wonder she's made the show. Let's crack on.
I would say I've definitely got commitment issues.
Commitment issues, and then she's followed up with being a fuckboy. She doesn't like that, or she better not be getting on with him.
You don't want to see my DMs, to be honest. My best chat line is, do you have Insta? My mum always told me to follow my dreams.
I like that one. I like it. I think this is savvy. I think this is what's funny. It's that the law of seduction in this kind of chat up world is glorified a little bit too much. It's like you're a legend, especially in the male world. If you're able to use tactics like this and get away with it and do ballsy things, especially approaching women, then you are kind of like perceived by your other men, usually made as jokes or banter, as more superior. You're more ballsy, you take bigger risks, and that's a big masculine trait of seeing a worthiness. You're competent enough to be the alpha. You're somebody who we look up to in the male realm, and if he's continually doing that and showing his mates and being proud of it, then there is an issue here, because again he's going into this persona world, and again, where Robert Greene says in his work with the laws of power and seductive characters, he uses the coquette to describe somebody who uses the the language, uses like Shakespearean technical elements, and he uses words to seduce women into his pit, his lair, get what he wants. So these men are great at playing with your desires and then using avoidance or never really fulfilling on their promises. So hopefully in the show he's fulfilling upon chasing his dreams, and that person is committed to. But reality is, he's used this trick fair enough times before, and it's not likely to happen in the show.
It usually works.
And when he says it usually works, it's like he's got this tactic that he uses, and he's seeing how successful it is. Not a good sign, big red flag. He's like objectifying women as part of a game. There's no consequences to his words, and that's the issue. We live in a world which is just a swipe right away from a match and having prolific sexual one-night stand lifestyles, and then there's no real consequence upon that action. And what's funny is nature's way of a boundary is sexual transmitted diseases, isn't it? We can't go and sleep around with everyone without condoms, and the great inventions of medical society and their research and development with the pill, medications to get rid of things like gonorrhea, chlamydia, and all the nasty ones. We now have medicine, which is great in lots of ways. It's given us lots of freedom and increased our expected livelihoods and made us more healthy. However, it is playing with nature's boundaries, isn't it? The fact that medicine is allowing us to fear no consequences around our sexual energy, fear no consequences around spending that energy and spending what he's doing in his dating. He's kind of have a prolific dating game, doesn't he? But there is no consequences, just as in the physical realm, where nature's boundaries are actually being dissolved by our very development. Nice dress, but I'm sure, hopefully, she's not prey to the lions in that den.
That are flashy and show off. Like, I've had once a guy shake his car keys in my face. Very awkward.
Well done, she's got a form of sandwich, she's
I fall in
seeing
love
it.
twice a week. I just can't help myself, really. My eyes just get lost.
We go temptation, non-committal, and again, no consequences to his actions. He's probably been single for a fair long time, and he's probably valuing the wrong things. Again, likely living in a space of status, how many women he can pull, and living in that quantification world rather than qualification world, whereas connection isn't quality orientated anymore, it's quantity orientated, which is very dangerous for our young generation, which we're living in, and it's kind of toxic, isn't it?
In this world, there's how many women? 3 billion women? A few of them have got to like me, surely.
I like that, humble.
I can be romantic.
Well done.
I just love, waking up in the morning and listen "Good morning, baby" instead of "Buongiorno, amore."
He seems nice, seems a bit humble with his energy, very sweet, but again, using words, the coquette, to seduce women. And the same thing, we use culture, we use language, we use difference to seduce women as well, don't we? In that funny way with men, it's like, what is our USP? What's our unique selling point? Almost like a business to clients and trying to bring in with a marketing solution your clients into your business. The same thing goes. You look at yourself, like, what's the unique thing about me? You get interviewed that with jobs. I remember going into the Love Island show and they always ask me those questions like, what makes you stand out from the rest? again, an issue because we start to be in this competitive hierarchy, we start to live in this scarcity orientated space, and we feel like we need to pretend or fake or find something that's performative to see if we're actually worthy of competing. And that's not a very good thing. We just want to be, don't we? And we have natural gifts and talents, and we don't need to manufacture them out of nowhere. And this is what's happening here. Again, when we demonize or glorify our cultures, our religious backgrounds or anything different, it becomes a little bit disingenuous, and that's what's happening here potentially.
My dating history is actually shambles. I'm not even gonna lie. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, is it me? Is it them?
I am very much the kind of girlfriend that like really looks after you and like basically your mum.
Basically your mum. Lots of issues in this one. Lots of you who watch this channel are likely helpers. Me too. My Enneagram is a type 2. I'm a helper naturally. I do tend to self-sacrifice. I people please. I can't say no. I'm more compliant to those that are a bit more aggressive. And I never really quit that pattern for a long time. It took me years. Now, this is a great trait of yours. You're a giver. But this comes from probably conditioning in the past where you felt like you needed to abandon yourself to help somebody else and then retrieve validation for you to feel worthy. Now, this is outsourcing your worth, essentially, is that you can't validate yourself before then somebody validates you. An issue here because you're likely going to attract men who are in the victim space. I will talk about this in another video, but there's men who live in a dangerous masculine. Those that are like Peter Pan men who have not really owned responsibility for their own lives, so then you feel responsible for theirs. So a good reminder to realize that not to become a helper is to know what you're responsible for and what you're responsible to. You're never responsible for somebody else's life, ever. And that's religious studies as well. Is to say that you have the God-right gift to manifest your desires, abundance, whatever else. But you should look after your own Garden of Eden before looking after another's. Make sure your pastures are green before looking over the fence to another one. An issue here as well. It's not going to bring out this healthy masculine, which is somebody who wants to provide for you and never want to feel like a kid to you as mum. But I never wanted her to become my mum. There's great similarities. I fell in love with my mum when I was a young age. She was that first feminine that entered into my life. But then again, it's not what you want in a romantic partner. A healthy relationship is when two adults come together, when not one parents the inner child of the other, or vice versa. You want to come together as adults where you've really met your inner child needs. It's not to say though and demonize that your inner child should show up in your relationship in a wholehearted way, but not one that's victimized and needs to outsource a need to be nurtured or cared for by the other. We want to do that for ourselves. Brilliant. Let's get on.
First impressions, guys might think that I'm a bit of a sweetheart and that I'm quite innocent, which I can be at times. But once you get to know me, I think they realise that I am a bit of a man-eater.
Oh, that's a biggie. So again, she's playing the natural, just like Robert Greene's seductive characters. It's someone who is innocent, who reminds you of your long lost childhood dreams. And then what will happen is that sweetness will start to dissolve when that persona is starting to disintegrate as you get to know and build more rapport and get into those vulnerable states. And what's a tragedy to me is that not all of us see our sweetness. We all have inherently God. We have love that lives within us, and we are incredible miracles. And sometimes we feel like we need to fake sweetness, kindness, and compassion, but it just lives within us. It's a birthright. It's basically what we've biologically been ingrained to have. Now, to manufacture that, it becomes a big issue because we're living a lie essentially, and then the truth will eventually show through. It's why we need to sort of see ourselves as imperfect. We are not perfect people. We need to see our flaws. We need to see that there's a little monster inside that is there to protect us. Anger. Anger is a beautiful emotion to express defensiveness and need to protect your boundaries and people trying to overlay and take advantage of you. Anger is a beautiful way to fight, and so we need to not demonize these things that actually should be shown. We shouldn't be pretending in social situations or even for a show to find a man. Just be. It's okay to have flaws, but then again, all of this is magnified on a magnificent scale by UK media and a world-renowned show, which again is only going to bring up more insecurity. And I did have that peak anxiety before I even nearly got my own role on the show. I was really worried about not the truth coming out, but me being able to handle the toxic environment that this show starts to create. And again, you are being judged by something that the directors want you to be, and you're cut and edited and postured and filtered to be something for the show rather than who you truly are. So maybe they're all playing personas, but at the end of the day, and this is protective mechanism and never for true connection, which we do want to see on our shows, don't we? So let's move on.
I'm really confident.
I have the Irish charm. 99.9%, it always works. The 0.9% is if she has a man.
I back myself for sure, but this is Love Island. There's going to be good-looking lads, isn't there?
There we go, dominance hierarchy, good-looking lads in there. He's comparing himself to the dominance hierarchy of other men, seeing how other men are competent, and it's only going to create more competition in his own mind, and then insecurity and not enoughness. And again, from that space, you're not going to get the best man showing up in your relationship or dating, as it were.
Little pocket rocket is what I usually go for.
I am most definitely main character vibes.
My melodramatic side may come out when I'm challenged or apparently in the wrong. I think I'm always right.
There we go, happy wife, happy life, as they say. But then again, this melodramatic, demanding side of the feminine is only going to really exacerbate the wounded masculine. This hypersensitivity can lead to externalizing, which then doesn't do too well with men, who then become stonewalling and defensive, and just never good for genuine connection at all.
I am a bit demanding, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm absolutely buzzing to get in that villa.
And like potentially meet like my future husband. Like, could you imagine?
I'm not worried about stepping on anyone's toes.
I can't see myself losing, to be honest.
I've been waiting for...
Not worried about stepping on anybody's toes. There we go, we're fighting in the male dominance hierarchy for that alpha. Having no remorse, not caring or no respect for anybody else, no compassion, not enough for everybody else out there. This show in itself is a competition, and only it's going to bring out that competitive nature that we primarily have. It's just going to bring out the worst in us, as it were.
I've been waiting for this all my life. Bring it on.
Hopefully one of the girls steps forward, otherwise I'll be jumping in that bloody pool.
This could all backfire and maybe I'll end up getting paid. Doubt it, but
Love the pop.
Game on.
Game on. Well, what a beautiful way to end that video. But what that was good. It was good. It seems like some good contestants in there. I guess they are playing their game, they are playing their personas, and I know this is probably manufactured for the sake of creating some urge and a great show for everyone, and again some talk points. Me and my wife were talking about this instantly as soon as we watched it. We're like, oh, this is quite interesting to see a window into what the human nature is capable of under all this pressure. Again, if you don't know what Love Island is, it's a show where you are competing to survive. If you couple up, you survive to the end, which is then granted, I think with £50,000 or dollars, whatever it is, at the end of the show. And again, you can sacrifice that by keeping love and sharing that prize pot, or keeping it for yourself. So again, it's very competitive. There's a lot up for stake here. And so it's gonna bring out the worst in our human nature, because that money is associated and valued with security and fame, status, whatever it be. But what's great is it plays on the human psyche, is love and that relationship, which may be disingenuine, more than the money that you could get at the end. Now I know it's super entertaining to like feel better about your life by watching this, and this entertaining kind of gossipy culture is what we get addicted to. Again, addiction is a biochemical or physiological response to something we crave. And again, this kind of energetic level, and if we look at it in a really deep level, it's like what this is being projected to us through our screens. It's something we're becoming addicted to, and so we become dense in our psychology. We become a match to what we watch and consume. And Viktor Frankl said this in his book, A Man's Search for Meaning, where we are a product of our environment. Just like we had with a pandemic, there's been mass psychosis across the board via our propagandic messaging towards us. We became super fearful, we locked ourselves down, we took precautionary measures based on each other's fear. Look, when you walk into a farm full of deer, one of them will notice you, won't they? And then funnily enough, without even the others being alerted, they'll run as soon as the sign of the other deer starts to run. It's kind of this social, collective, protective mechanism where if one is in fright, fight or freeze responses, it's going to then infect the rest. This is just as much power as a show like Love Island has on our little brains here. We're going to adopt the same tactics, the same games in our dating realm, because it's that social proof, it's that social validation. It's that we put these people who are very normal, who probably, you know, have a hairdressing clinic in Bristol, and put them on pedestals like they're absolute famous and Hollywood actors for a season. It's pretty crazy. People just explode to fame, and that in itself is us comparing to something that's probably not true. Now, just check yourself. And it's why I say when you watch this, it's beautiful learning. If you're sort of conscious and aware of what they're projecting to you on the screen, it's kind of laughable and great fun to watch. Now, I'm not demonizing it at all if you do watch it, but I am saying if we are not aware, it is projecting lots of unhealthy ideals. It's narcissism, it's negative roots for needing validation, it's surface level connection, and it's creating wounded feminine and wounded masculine environments to connect. It's never showing the truth, it's persona orientated, it's performance orientated, it's never truly true connection or vulnerable connection that the show ever delivers. Now, usually when one is vulnerable, it's usually spoke up and blown up on media like it's negative, or there's always this gossip and there's always consequences in a big fight in the show, and it's always just chaotic. And so we associate vulnerability as something that's a bad thing, as dangerous, and that's never a good association to have in your relationships. I abide by vulnerability being the window to connection and being a great test to see if the person in front of you in dating or relationships is somebody who's going to meet you in the same depth that you're learning to become. And my last note for you is to not settle for men and women that portray the same kind of tactics like this show. You should expect something from your life and relationships. It's where meaning starts to be derived from. Check your role in this. Are you creating kind of like spiritual ceilings? Are you creating limits for yourself where you're only meeting your physical needs in terms of like sexual cravings or need for belongingness? Or on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the pyramid, are you excelling yourself to the self-esteem and self-actualization level where your partner is truly trying to learn more, be curious about you, share really deep spiritual beliefs with you, have something that's taking your life to a whole new psychological level and breaking through those ceilings rather than just keeping you at a comfort zone that becomes apathetic, becomes potentially boring and potentially not stimulating or challenging for you in all the right ways. Find that partner who brings you peace, brings calm to your central nervous system rather than activates it. And my final cliche quote, as I like to say, is you can only go as deep with others as you go deep with yourself. It's the most empowered route to take when it comes to connection. Now, I hope this kind of like inference or commentary on this show has helped you in some shape or form. It was just, you know, a last minute video idea. So please do comment below what you think of the show, how it's negatively impacted you or positively impacted you, and your thoughts on this intro. Have you seen anything that I haven't? Please do comment below. Share with a mate who loves the show and would like to have the truth or to see it in a whole new perspective. And again, please do subscribe, like, and share this video with a mate, because I am here trying to post as much as possible, and I'll see you on the next video. Much love, and from my heart to yours, have a beautiful day.